everybody, welcome to Down Home Backyard Gardening. Are you new to gardening? More importantly, are you new to growing tomatoes? If you are going to hear a term called suckers. Let's go over everything there is to know about this controversial topic. Let's grow. Why is this topic so controversial? And again, if you're new to gardening, this is probably new to you. But I've heard so many different people on both sides of this argument get so passionate over this topic. Now, again, this comes back, to me at least, in the way I'm thinking of it, and the way I've experienced it, to the two different types of plants. You have determinate plants, tomato plants, and you have indeterminate tomato plants. This is really simple. A determinate plant will only get so big, to a determined size. Very simple. An indeterminate will continue to grow and grow and grow and grow until basically you either kill it by pulling it out of the ground, or the frost kills it, or winter kills it. That's how tomato plants are categorized: determinate and indeterminate. The great majority of determinate tomato plants are like the cherry tomato varieties, like the ones right here behind me. Those plants have to be dealt with in a different way than, say, a beefsteak or a Cherokee purple or purple Cherokee, or those kinds of plants where those are indeterminates, and you would basically trellis them from the ground up and they would continue growing. Show a picture of how this looked last year with this bed being a completely indeterminate bed for this reason. So I can trellis those plants up and produce as much fruit as possible. Let's talk about suckers, but first let's identify them. This is really, really simple. Okay, I'm going to use this tomato plant. You're always going to have the main stem, and you're going to have these side branches that come off. These are normal leaf branches. Well, then you're going to have the fruiting branches that come off also. But what you're looking for is the main branch, a normal branch, and then right here in the elbow you have this growth right here. That right there is a sucker, and that is how you take them off. Why did I just rip that sucker off that healthy plant? Well, because the term sucker refers to that little secondary growth sucking the growing energy out of the plant. And the reason it does that is because those side shoots are just creating more useless growths on that type of plant. Now, this is where I'm going to explain the difference between an indeterminate tomato plant and a determinate tomato plant. Indeterminates are, like I said, are just going to grow and grow and grow. Well, those suckers suck the growing energy out of those plants, because those plants, you want a single stem going straight up, and all you want is the normal leaf growth and the fruiting growth, the fruiting branches that come off of those plants. You don't want all those side growths normally. Now, some people, and this is where it gets controversial, some people will say, leave your plants alone, let them do their thing. You leave your plants alone on the determinate tomato plants, and let me show you. That tomato plant right there and this tomato plant right here are both determinate tomato plants. So as you can see, we've got the main stem here, right there, a normal branch right there, and then this whole branch, this whole growth right here is a sucker. So Chad, why didn't you rip that sucker off of that plant? Because on cherry tomato plants, a great majority of the fruiting that will come from these plants come off of those suckers. Because again, these plants only get so tall. So you basically just leave determinate tomato plants alone. You water them, you pick the fruit, you check for pests, you fertilize, amend, and that's it. You don't worry about the suckers on these plants, because again, that is where a lot of the fruiting comes from, is off of those side shoots on the determinate tomato plants, cherry tomatoes, basically. So on an indeterminate plant, when you've got it trellised way up here, and you've got the normal growths, the leaves coming off the sides and the fruiting areas coming off the sides. You don't want a bunch of crazy offshoots going all over the place, taking away the growing energy to that plant. And that is why on these types of plants, indeterminates, I highly recommend you take those suckers off, and you start when they're small. So tomato plants take time, they take energy, they take a lot of effort, and you have to really be watching them, because again, pests will hit these things quick. If leaves are on the ground and you're watering and that there's something in the soil that splashes up on the tomato plant, that's where funguses and diseases and all that stuff starts to hit the tomato plant. So you don't want to add something to the plant that's going to take away energy from growing and keeping it healthy. So get rid of the suckers, and the way you do that is the way I just showed it. Pinch it right there in that elbow area, twist, and pull it off. Throw it away. Now, I will say this about suckers. If you let them get really, really big, you can actually take them off the way I just showed, a little bit more gently, and plant them in the ground, and you will get another plant. Almost always. Not always, but almost always. And let me show you exactly how to do that, because this is an easy way to multiply your tomato crop, your tomato plants. But again, it's not always going to work. You want if you're going to do this, you want that sucker to be long, not like a couple inches. You want it like 8-9 inches or longer. That's the experience I've had with getting these things to actually take root and grow another plant. You want them long. And unfortunately, I have one. So let me show you. Okay, on this tomato plant, you've got the stem right here. You've got the normal branch coming off right here. And this entire thing right here is a sucker. It's right there in that elbow. So because this one is on the ground, I'm actually going to pull that one off. You don't want leaves touching the ground. See all that moisture on that leaf? That can introduce all kinds of diseases to your plant. So that is gone. But that is still a sucker. So we are going to take the sucker off the exact same way I did earlier. I'm going to pinch it, twist it, pull it off. Now that is a decent size sucker. We're going to take this branch and that branch off, and then because they have all these little hairs, and those hairs have the potential to become roots if they touch soil, we are going to plant this right now. Spot right there that's open, and that's where we're going to put this sucker right now. First, I'm going to take off these two bottom leaves, and the reason I'm doing that again is all of these little hairs can have the potential to become roots. So you want to give it as much room to root as you can, and that's like 5-6 inches worth of rooting. I'm going to put in a little mixture of blood meal and bone meal just to help, and then sit it right down in there, and you can take it right up. You can bury it right up to those leaves right there. And that's it. That's all you have to do to plant a sucker. Again, make sure you've got a good long sucker branch off that you can totally put in this ground, buried in the ground. Make sure you label it. Don't forget what plant it is, or else you're just gonna have a surprise tomato plant, which is actually kind of fun. And then water it in. Water it in, water it in. Now, from my experience, the first few days after doing this, you're gonna think the thing is dead. Don't give up on it. Just keep watering it. And to me, it's like a 50-50 whether it works. Now, the blood meal and bone meal will help produce roots and leaves and all that, and the growth. So that sucker has a chance, a good viable chance to become another plant. And I will do an update on this video down the road, whether this one takes or it doesn't. Either way, I'll show you exactly what happens to that one right there. So that is everything you need to know about suckers. The controversy comes to whether you as an individual gardener, and through your experience, if you should pick the suckers off or keep them on. My opinion, again, indeterminate tomato plants, if you're going to trellis them and you're going to one vine method them and get them up that one single stalk, get rid of the suckers. The plant doesn't need them. If it's a cherry tomato, a determinate tomato plant, leave that plant completely alone, take a lot of really good care of it, and just sit back and enjoy all the fruit you're gonna get. It's that simple. And until next time, everyone, take care, God bless, and I'll talk to y'all again real soon. Bye.